Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 31st. It is sunny. I'm so happy about that. Yesterday was a tough day. I'm so tired. And yesterday I was just feeling so blah because it was Monday. It was gray and rainy and dreary and on top of everything else going on in the world right now. So I'm very happy that the sun is out today. I don't know what the temperature is supposed to be, but I'm hoping to get outside and go for a walk later today. I got a couple questions yesterday about the chapters. I uploaded them a little differently this time. You just have to download them. So make sure that you're trying everything before giving up and reaching out to me. Make sure that you have downloaded, scrolled, all those things. Because with the reading yesterday, all you had to do is download and then scroll down and you would see all the pages. If you still have questions about accessing yesterday's reading, you can comment, email, call, or text me. Today we're going to be continuing Chapter 7 and that Google form. You should have taken notes that look something like the top of my page right there, with your first three answers, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. And today we will finish the Google form and submit it. Vocab Jam, I'm going to schedule for this Friday. So instead of having a daily ELA assignment on Google Classroom that day, because homework was a little bit longer this week, and because I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to do a vocab jam, we won't have daily classwork on Friday. So on Friday, you should just worry about completing your ELA homework if you haven't already, and you can log on to the vocab jam if you would like. I'm thinking of making it at noon. But I need to double check with the rest of the 6th grade team that none of them have any Zoom meetings scheduled for any of you at noon on Friday. So I'll double check with your math and science teachers, and as long as noon on Friday is okay with them, then I will create a vocab jam for noon on Friday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Last Wednesday we had those Zoom hangouts where people logged on and we just talked and, got to see each other and see how everyone's doing. Some students really liked that, so we're going to be doing that again tomorrow, Wednesday, at 1:30. So I will set up that Zoom and post that tomorrow morning, or later today, so you have more of a notice, and you can plan ahead. I am going to be starting a small group Zoom. I've been doing one-to-one phone calls with students who have been struggling to complete the work independently, but now my schedule is becoming really overwhelming because there's a decent amount of you who need that extra help. So I realized that I should probably do maybe like a small group Zoom every day instead. So if you are a student who feels like they are really struggling getting the work done independently, you're trying your best, you're following all the directions in the videos, you're asking me for help via Google Classroom and email, you're asking your family for help, and you're still just not understanding, then please comment on today's assignment or email me or call or text me and let me know that you'd like to be a part of the small group. And I will add you to that and give you the information. That was a lot of announcements. So just to reiterate, Friday we will not have daily classwork because homework was longer this week. So Friday, your job is to just complete your ELA homework, and you have the option to log on to vocab.com and join our jam at noon on Friday. Second, we're going to do another Zoom hangout tomorrow. We did it last Wednesday, so we're going to do it this Wednesday as well at 1:30. It's just a space for you to hang out, see people, catch up, see how everyone's doing. That will be at 1:30 tomorrow, Wednesday, April 1st. And I will post that link on Google Classroom later today. And lastly, I'm going to start doing Zoom small groups because I am starting to overwhelm myself with how many one-to-one appointments I have right now. So I'm going to try to combine those and do a small group every day. This small group is for students who are really struggling to complete the work independently. So that means that you're trying your absolute best, you're following all the directions in the video, you're asking your family questions, you're asking me questions via Google Classroom or email, and you're still struggling. If you're one of those students, please comment, email, call, or text me, and I will add you to that small group and give you the link to that. So that small group will start tomorrow. I'm not sure of the time yet because I need to look at all of your schedules and my own schedule. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and grab your notebook. If you don't have a notebook, grab a piece of paper that you are going to have in a safe place. Grab a pencil or something to write with, and you will eventually need your Dragon Wings book. So you can grab that if you have a hard copy of the book. If you don't have a hard copy of the book, you can open the readings when we get to that point. So right now, most important thing is notebook and pencil. And our word today is patronized. Patronize means to talk to someone in a way that shows that you believe you're more intelligent or better than them. So it's kind of like a stuck-up way of talking. An example sentence from Dragon Wings is, I did not want to be patronized. And in the picture, the woman says, I'm a feminist, which means that you believe in women's rights. So of course, a woman would be a feminist, right? And the man says to her, I think that's cute. Basically his way of saying that women's rights should not be taken seriously. If you call something cute, you don't usually take it too seriously. Make sure that you also write your own sentence. And go ahead and pause this video if you are not finished. Awesome. So, we don't have any new teacher notes today because we are continuing our assignment from yesterday. But just as a quick reminder, you should look in your notebook or on your piece of paper from yesterday and just remind yourself of the notes. So yesterday's notes were about answering multiple choice questions and the things that you should do when you're answering multiple choice questions. So one useful hint is to read the question before you start reading. As you get older and you continue to read longer, more complex texts and books, it sometimes can get overwhelming as to what you're reading for. There's so many characters, there's so many settings and places, there's so many conflicts and problems. So it's very important to know what you're reading for. So always read the question first before you read. Always go back to the text. We've been giving you the page numbers. There's a reason for that. Like we've been saying, there's a lot of options that might seem like the right answer, and some questions are going to have multiple correct answers, but we're looking for the best correct answer. That's why we give you the page numbers, so that you can get the best correct answer. And that brings me to our third note from yesterday, which was select the most correct answer. So the way that you can do that is making sure that you read through all of the options, not just stopping at the first one that you think sounds right. Make sure you read all of the options, use process of elimination to get rid of the ones that are definitely incorrect, and then decide from the ones that are left. And last but not least, use those keywords to answer questions. So a keyword is not a word like what, because what is almost in every single question. A keyword is not the. A keyword is going to be a word that doesn't come up in every type of sentence and is unique to that question. So if it's about a character, then you're probably going to look for the character's name. If it's about a mood, then you're probably going to look for that mood word. If it's about a conflict that happened, then you're probably going to look for a keyword that has to do with that conflict, maybe like the word knife when we were talking about Black Dog a couple chapters ago, or drugs when we were talking about Black Dog a couple chapters ago. So those are keywords that don't come up in every type of question, so you would look for that word when you are skimming. Awesome. I think you guys, those of you that I've been doing the one-on-one phone calls with, I've noticed over the past week that you've been getting a lot better at this, so I'm hoping that those of you that I haven't talked to are also finding these videos useful of me modeling how to do it, and I hope that you're getting better doing it on your own as well. Awesome. So if you have not already, go ahead and open up the assignment from yesterday. Again, it's the Google form that's called 3:30:20 Chapter 7 Text-Dependent Questions. And just like I said yesterday, unfortunately, I can't, I forgot to print this page, and on my phone, it doesn't let me show you a Google form. So, I apologize for that, but it should be simple enough to get to. You're going to yesterday's assignment and opening 3:30:20 Chapter 7 Text-Dependent Questions. Now, before we continue, just like I said yesterday, you should have wrote down the answers that you had so far because your Google form doesn't save. So go ahead and type your name in again, click which section you're in, 6-1, 6-2, or 6-3, and then go ahead and plug in your answers from yesterday for 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, and 3B. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. All right, so at this point, you probably should be done doing that. If you're not, you can pause the video. We're going to go ahead and pick up on number 4. So number 4 says, read pages 157 to 165, then stop and answer the following questions. 4A, what is Robin's point of view on Moonshadow's many stories about dragons? So it sounds like in Chapter 7, Moonshadow is going to start to tell Robin about the dragons. So I'm very interested to see what her point of view is. We have to figure that out. And then 4B will be the evidence that supports our answer. So even though it says to read pages 157 to 165, we need to pick up where we left off yesterday, which is the break on page 156. If you're wondering what a break is, it's when there's like a space randomly on a page. We've talked about this briefly before, but as a reminder, usually that just means that like the scene is changing. So if you picture like a play, that means that they're going to maybe like change their clothes and change the setting, the place, and they're going to start talking about something completely different. So sometimes that happens in a book. Sometimes the author needs one part of the chapter to just be done so that he or she can start writing about a new topic. So sometimes you'll see a break like this. So we're going to start right here where this break is on page 156. If you don't have the book, you should have the pages open that are attached to yesterday's assignment. Awesome. So again, we're looking for Robin's point of view on Moonshadow's stories about the dragons. I'm going to stop after page 165. Please follow along. It was about 2 demon weeks after the water pump incident. The city had steady spring rains every day, but I didn't mind. The demon boys stayed inside if they were around at all. Though Father was not at home, I had company enough, for the rains here were lively, friendly things. The strong winds would blow in from the sea and catch the rain so that you never knew from what direction it would hit. Sometimes it would drum suddenly on the roof. The next moment the roof would be silent. As the rain rattled against the glass on one wall, then the rain would jump and tap at the window on the opposite side. During this time, Father lined up extra repair jobs, clocks and things to fix in his spare time, until his table was cluttered. Still, he spared a half hour every evening to read to me from his aeronautical books. I don't think he ever stopped to consider that the Wrights were about the only demons to whom I could have talked for any long period of time. Page 157. And after the half-hour lesson would come the reward, when we would work at a model of a glider, imitating the pictures and schematics in the books. Father would set the problem of ratios to me, in which I would have to convert the figures for a full-length original to a scaled-down model. Between my head and the abacus, I managed. Then Father and I would cut the bamboo strips in the rice paper and slowly construct the model. But we never got a chance to fly it, because whenever Father was free, it was raining. So came his first free day when the skies, though still cloudy, did not look like rain. Father announced we were flying it, even though we had to wear boots and heavy coats. In those days, San Francisco had not been built up as much, and if we walked about a mile to the west, we'd find plenty of open sand dunes for several miles until we hit the ocean. I might have known the demon girl would tag along. She walked behind us, pretending to be interested in various houses and gardens that just happened to lie along the way we were taking. Finally, after this had gone on for 3 blocks, Father turned. "You want help us fly it?" He held up the model glider. It was a good 3 feet in wingspan. The demon girl shrugged. "I guess so." Page 158. I said nothing to her. I felt betrayed by Father, and I was hurt too, that Father spent most of the time talking to the demon girl. He was only being polite, but I did not see it that way. I kept waiting for her to make fun of the way he talked, but she never did. "I've never seen a kite like that," she said finally. "This model of glider take man into sky," Father said. "Oh, go on." The demon girl shook her head. "I wasn't born yesterday." "No, you born maybe 10 years ago," Father said matter-of-factly, and was puzzled when the demon girl sniffed and her back stiffened. She was awfully touchy about people being smart with her, and she thought Father was being smart right then. He was only stating a fact, though, as he understood it, but the demon girl warmed up when we began to fly the glider. Father had me run with it while he jotted down notes with a well-worn stub of a pencil on some of our old bills. The glider behaved erratically, dipping and then soaring and then dipping again. Then Father waved me back to him. When I got there, we pulled in the glider. It came down too quickly, but Father ran and caught it. Then he turned the glider model over in his hands. I took some more scraps of paper with clean backs out of his pocket. It was my turn to take notes and also get some writing practice in demonic, page 159. It need more wing surface, Father mused, and he went into a lot of jargon about center of gravity and wing configuration. Wing what? The demon girl asked. Father glanced at me. It was my turn to show off. Wing configuration. You know, shape of wing. I traced the shape of the wing with my pencil. I waited for her to make fun of me. Oh, was all the demon girl said. She crossed her arms. For someone who doesn't know English too well, you know an awful lot of 4-bit words. They in the books, I said cautiously. Books? The demon girl asked. She picked up interest. We show, Father said politely. When we returned to our stable, we gave the demon girl our one good chair, an old stool that Father had found in a vacated apartment and which we had stripped of paint and repainted. She sat down before our bookcase, several fruit crates turned on their sides. She paged through the books, looking more and more puzzled. You understand this? She asked. Yes, some, I said. Father nudged me and I stood beside her, explaining what I could in my broken demonic. In the meantime, Father left to buy some vegetables from a nearby greengrocer for our dinner. Page 160. The demon girl closed the book when I finished explaining the paragraphs, and she leaned forward, her body following the line of books. But where's the dragon book? What dragon book? The one that you get all those stories about dragons from. Or did you just make up those things you told to my aunt? I say true things. About dragons bringing rain to men, and about their being able to change their size and shape. The demon girl looked skeptical. They true, I insisted. The demon girl pursed her lips. In China? In whole world. You Americans not know everything. The demon girl considered that for a moment as she picked at the lint on her coat. I suppose, she said grudgingly, but then, you don't know everything either. That was true, but I did not much like admitting it. Instead, I shrugged. But I know lots about dragons. You like dragons? I don't know. I never met one. She said that almost as a dare to me, but I did not back down. How you know? They can be tiny, tiny as flea. Maybe you hear voice speak to you from nowhere. That them is tiny, tiny as ant, only you no see. Or maybe take shape of men. Page 161. The demon girl crossed her arms over her chest and leaned forward on her knees. Humph. She still looked doubtful. I couldn't understand her stubbornness in refusing to believe in dragons. I suppose for her part she could not understand why I believed in them. She added, I'm from, it sounded like, Missouri. Please? She spoke very slowly. Missouri. It's a state. Is that like province? I guess. What I mean is that I'm as stubborn as a Missouri mule. Please? As my aunt says, it's a creature that pound for pound can out-ornery any other creature on God's earth. How you know? I never seen one. Sure you have. There are lots of mules. But you know if any come from Missouri? I guess so. How you know? I asked triumphantly. The demon girl made a small exasperated sound. She mulled that over for a while, chewing at her underlip. You're a clever, slippery creature, Moonshadow, she grudged finally. I'll give you that much. You turned the tables around nice and neat. She glanced at me sideways and smiled again. And as for telling whoppers, there probably never was your like. You tell some mean stories about dragons, page 162. Whoppers? Mean stories? Oh, never mind. The demon girl slid the book back into the shelf. But I'd swear you have an imagination almost as good as E. Nesbit. Who that? A new writer. And she made me wait until she got some books from her room. They looked very interesting, but to my embarrassment, I found that I had spent so much time learning aeronautical jargon, I had not picked up on the everyday talk. Still, I could look at the pictures while the demon girl outlined the story about flying carpets and phoenixes and magical amulets and cranky old sand elves who lived on the beaches. She explained that a cousin of her father's lived now in England and shipped from there. I've got some of these too, the demon girl pretended to say casually. She slipped some dime novels from behind her back. They were printed on cheap tanned colored paper with the most lurid paper covers, and they ranged across a wide variety of subjects. There were Ned Buntline specials about the adventures of Buffalo Bill in the Wild, Wild West, To me it was east, though, since I judge things geographically in relation to the Middle Kingdom. There were others about Jesse James and how he tortured his robbery victims, page 163. But her pride and joy were the Nick Carter detective stories, with a dead body on almost every page, as she boasted. Your cousin sent these? She laughed. Oh no, I got these from Maisie next door. She's a girl in my class in school. She got them from her brother Jack. We trade back and forth, but... She leaned forward conspiratorially. You can't tell Auntie. She'd have kittens if she found out. She would? I said with interest. No, it was only a figure of speech. I'd get in trouble if she knew I was reading these, she said. I realized then that the demon girl, Robin, was testing me. Well, she was not all that bad to talk to, and she, at least, had never thrown a rock at me. I no tell, I said. She sat back satisfied. You can read them if you like. I like to, but I not think I can. Too many words I not know, I confessed. I'll teach you, Robin said loftily. She put her hand on the stack of E. Nesbit books. We'll start with these, and then when you know English better, you can read these. She touched her precious pile of dime novels. That was how my lesson started. Father gave me permission to go over to Miss Whitlaw's for an hour to read with Robin and write. Miss Whitlaw sat in the parlor and helped me too, page 164. My vocabulary and grammar picked up enough so that I could stumble through the E. Nesbit books. I found that the dime novels were easier stuff because they had simple words and ideas. Robin was right. They were great. Awash with gore, she liked to say. And even after I had finished the Nesbit books, we continued my lessons. We would talk about any number of things, and Miss Whitlaw encouraged me to write short paragraphs about dragons, which she and Robin then corrected. Robin, of course, said she did not believe one word of what I wrote or said about dragons. She would simply sniff or roll her eyes or shake her head at another whopper. But she was always there in the parlor every night, munching away at cookies and listening to what I said or reading what I wrote about dragons, for I went on to tell them of the adventures of the dragons near my village, of their feuds and wars, of the love affairs between men and dragon maidens who would take human form, and of the friendships that had helped me. In the weeks that followed, I found out that while I had set out to re-educate the demoness about dragons, she was educating me in the demonic language. After a while, we wandered away from dragons, for to explain about the dragons, I had to describe my home. I mean, our home. Page 165. In very halting demonic, I told them about the waters of the Pearl River, thick and milky and colored a reddish yellow like the color of the sunset distilled from the air. On the river you might see a stately junk tottering its way upstream, slatted sails rising to meet the wind, and skittering all around them would be the small two-man fishing boats, like little water bugs skimming over the surface. Sometimes they sailed in pairs before the wind with a net between them, scooping up the fish. Their square sails danced before the wind like sheets of paper. All this Miss Whitlaw listened to and more. Oh, someone else might say that she was simply interested in a foreign country, but I was convinced that she hung on my words because she had been a Tang woman in a former and better life. But if things were going great for me, I could not say the same for my father. There was so much to learn about the aeroplanes. There were tables and charts needed for various things, like the ratio between the curvature of the propeller blades and the revolutions they produced. It was then that I got an idea. I waited until Robin was in school and Father was away on an errand before I went to see Miss Whitlaw. You help me write letter, maybe? I asked her. Page 166, which is where we're going to stop for number 4. So number 4 said to read pages 157 to 165, check, then stop, check, and answer the following questions. 4A. What is Robin's point of view on Moonshadow's many stories about dragons? A. She is completely uninterested in Moonshadow's stories. B. She feels that Moonshadow pretends to know more than he actually does. C. She is actually interested in hearing more about the dragons, but pretends that she is not. Or D. She secretly is afraid of dragons and doesn't want Moonshadow to know. So there are 2 answers that I know for sure are incorrect. A is definitely incorrect. A says she is completely uninterested in Moonshadow stories. I know that's incorrect because she is not uninterested in him or his stories. She's spending an hour with him every day, and she's not just teaching him about her books, he's also teaching her about his books and about his culture, which includes dragons. So it's not A. I also know that it's not D. D says she's secretly afraid of dragons and doesn't want Moonshadow to know. She doesn't seem like someone who's afraid of really anything. When she noticed that the boys in the neighborhood were bothering Moonshadow, she started going out to the water pump with him. So you know that she is brave and possibly ready to defend Moonshadow if necessary. She also followed Moonshadow and Windrider 3 blocks when they were walking down to the beach. And she's around Moonshadow's age, right around a little bit younger than you guys. And so for her to follow 2 people who are basically complete strangers for 3 blocks shows that she's not really an afraid person. And then they invite her to go down to the beach with them, and she joins them. And again, she doesn't really know them that well. So we already know that she's a very curious person, and usually curious people aren't usually afraid of things. So D is not the correct answer. So that leaves me with 2 really good options. This is going to be a tricky one. B or C. B. She feels that Moonshadow pretends to know more than he actually does. So I do remember her making a comment on these pages saying something like, where are your books about dragons, or do you just make those stories up? So she does question whether he actually knows valid information about dragons. But that's not where the conversation ends, and that's why B is not correct. Even though she does make that comment to him about, is this real or are you pretending? He then goes on for a page or 2 telling her about what he does know about dragons, and she doesn't really question whether he's lying or not after that first comment. So that's how I know that the correct answer is C. She actually is interested in hearing about these dragons. She lets him talk about it for 2 whole pages. She's just pretending that she's not interested. She's not feeding into it a lot. She's skeptical still. She's like, do you really know this? But she's letting him talk about it. So she must be interested. So that's why C is the correct answer. So moving on to 4B. Which evidence best supports that she's actually interested in the dragons but pretends that she's not? A. But she was always there in the parlor every night munching away at cookies and listening to what I said or reading what I wrote about dragons. B. Robin, of course, said she did not believe 1 word of what I said or wrote about dragons. C. While I had set out to re-educate the demoness about dragons, she was educating me in the demonic language. Or D. She would simply sniff or roll her eyes or shake her head at another whopper. So same thing as 4A, there are 2 that I know definitely aren't correct. C is definitely not correct because who is the demoness? C is about the demoness. The demoness is not Robin. The demoness is Miss Whitlock. That's what Moonshadow calls Miss Whitlock. So C is about Miss Whitlock, not Robin. And our question for A was about Robin. So C is not correct. D is also not correct. It says she would simply sniff or roll her eyes or shake her head at another whopper. Although this statement was made about Robin, it is not explicit enough about what it's talking about. It does not explicitly say that this is about dragons. It does not explicitly say that she is interested but pretending not to be. So D is not correct because it's not detailed enough. It's not fully explaining what it's talking about. So that leaves us with A and B. A, but she was always there in the parlor every night, munching away at cookies and listening to what I said or reading about what I wrote about dragons. So that sounds like a pretty good piece of evidence. It's about dragons. The she is Robin. And it says that she's listening. Let's look at B. B, Robin, of course, said she did not believe one word of what I said or wrote about dragons. So this would be the best piece of evidence if we had chose B for 4A. So if we were still believing that she just thinks he's completely pretending, then she wouldn't believe what he's saying, right? But she only made that comment once, and then, like I said, she listened to him for 2 whole pages. So I think she might be starting to believe what he's saying. So the correct answer would be A for 4B. So I just wrote those down for you. 4A is C and 4B is A. Awesome. So you only have one question left. Today's nice and easy for you. And you're going to do this last one on your own, but I will read the pages for you in case you need that. So it says read pages 166 to 170. Read pages 166 to 170, then stop and answer the following questions. 5A. How does Miss Whitlock help Moonshadow understand his father's reaction to the letter from the Wrights? Well, that's exciting. The Wrights are the Wright brothers who just flew the first airplane. And this question makes it sound like father is going to receive a letter from them. So that's really exciting. He's going to have some sort of reaction. We don't know whether that's good or bad. And Miss Whitlaw is going to have to help Moonshadow understand this reaction. So this is a complex question, but it'll make more sense as we start reading. And then, of course, for 5B, you're going to find the evidence that supports your answer. So we left off on the top of page 166. I'm going to read until 170, which is the last page of the chapter. And you are looking for how Miss Whitlaw helps Moonshadow understand his father's reaction to the letter from the Wrights. So we're looking for the letter from the Wrights, how father reacts, and how Miss Whitlaw helps Moonshadow understand this reaction. Okay, complex question, but it's your only independent question today, so I know you can do it. Top of page 166. Why, of course, Moonshadow. To whom are you writing? To the Wrights, I announced proudly. The aeronauts. Miss Whitlaw seemed impressed. Oh, yes, I've read all about their exploits, and if half of what they say is true, why, it must be marvelous. But why do you ever want to write to them? My father, I began cautiously. He want fly like Wrights. Miss Whitlaw put a hand to her mouth. Oh, my. Isn't that rather dangerous? I shrugged. Not if he know how. Does he? Yes and no, I said. I did not think Miss Whitlock could be told about the dream, but he need facts, numbers, to build aeroplane. Robin told me he made such marvelous glider models, but I had no idea it was only a preliminary. To have such ambition! Miss Whitlock shook her head in admiration, and I think also a little anxiously. You help me write to them? Yes. Do you have their address? When she saw my puzzled look, she explained the demon's postal system. I know village, no. The town they live in, and province, no state. Well, she said, it might get through with just that. With her help, I finally wrote something like this, page 167. To the Honorable Wrights, this is to inform you that I am a boy of 11. I have greatly admired your feats of daring. My father wants to fly, too. Can you help him? We need to know how to shape the propellers. We need to know how big the wings should be in order to lift my father into the air. Father says that no one else in the whole world knows as much as you do about aeroplanes. Thank you. And I signed it with the sounds of my name spelled out in demon letters. I wrote several drafts of it and then copied it out in the fine, elegant hand Miss Whitlaw had taught me. The next day we went down together and mailed the letter. You realize, though, Moonshadow, that even if they were to get this letter, there is no guarantee that they'll answer it. They're busy men, you know. But 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the Wrights bicycle shop, and in a very neat, strong hand, Orville answered me. Dear Mr. Lee, my brother and I are always happy to meet another flying enthusiast. Our brotherhood is too small to lose any one of us. Enclosed, you will find some tables and diagrams that should prove of some service to you. If we can be of any further assistance to you, please let us know. Page 168. I waited anxiously that whole afternoon until Father came home. I almost danced around him. He hung his hat up on a nail and grinned. What is it you want to tell me? Did someone die and leave us a fortune? Better than that, I said. I held up the letter. I can't read that kind of demon script. Father handed the letter back to me. He could only read demon printed letters. He sat down on a crate while I read the letter to him. When I finished, I found him staring at me. I could not tell if he was angry or what. They also sent us some tables and diagrams. I tried to show them to Father, but he would not look at them. Did I do wrong? I asked. It's just that it seems like begging, Father said. But Miss Whitlock, Father asked sharply, did you ask her to write the letter? She only helped. I set the tables and diagrams down on top of a nearby crate. You told her about my dream? Father accused me. No, I said quickly. I was scared. You talk too much, Father snapped. Father crumpled up the letter and threw it into a corner. Page 169. I left Father sitting in the stable. Miss Whitlock and Robin were in the kitchen baking some things, but Miss Whitlock took one look at my face and told Robin to leave the room. Then she sat me down at the table and took my hand. What is it, Moonshadow? I told Miss Whitlock about Father's being mad, and I hinted a little about how he behaves like a dragon sometimes, but Miss Whitlock did not laugh. Perhaps, Miss Whitlock tapped a finger against her lips for a moment. Perhaps the truth of the dragon lies somewhere in between the American and the Chinese versions. He is neither all bad nor all good, neither all destructive nor all kind. He is a creature particularly in tune with nature, and so, like nature, he can be very, very kind or very, very terrible. If you love him, you will accept what he is. Otherwise, he will destroy you. For a long time, I listened in silence to the steady ticking of her kitchen clock. You wise woman, I said finally. No, she laughed. Just a foolish old woman who talks so much that every now and then she gets lucky and says the truth. She patted me on the shoulder. Now go back to him. I went back. Rather than shout at me, Father had gone to sleep. The next morning, I found that Father had picked up the letter and smoothed it out on the table as best he could. At that moment, he was leafing through the tables and diagrams. Page 170. He turned around when he heard me get up. Still, there's so much to know, and they did call us brothers. Yes, they did, I said carefully. Father shook the tin can into which we put our savings. He pulled out some demon paper dollars and coins. Maybe they'd like a crate of oranges. Don't you want to write a letter to them? Yes, I guess that would be best. Can you write while I dictate? I can try. Father thought for a moment. Maybe you should get Miss Whitlock to look at the final version, Father suggested. He wagged a finger at me, but only for the grammar. End of chapter 7. So, now you are independently answering 5A and 5B. 5A, how does Miss Whitlock help Moonshadow understand his father's reaction to the letter from the Wrights? A, she explains to Moonshadow that Windrider is too proud to accept help from others. B, she comforts Moonshadow by giving him food before telling him to go talk to Windrider. C, she is not able to give Moonshadow the help he needs, so he gives up and goes home. Or D, she explains that Windrider is very much like a dragon, neither all good nor all bad, and that Moonshadow should go and talk to him. To B, this one is pretty obvious, but you're going to do it on your own. So pause this video until you have your answer for 5A. Moving on to 5B. Which evidence best supports the answer you chose? A, just a foolish old woman who talks so much that every now and then she gets lucky and says the truth. B, he is a creature particularly in tune with nature, and so, like nature, he can be very, very kind or very, very terrible. C, now go back to him. Or D, perhaps the truth of the dragon lies somewhere in between the American and Chinese version. And that is your last question for today. When you're finished answering that question, you will go ahead and submit that Google form, and then you are done for today. So again, later I will post the link to the Zoom that we'll have tomorrow for just a check-in and hangout for anyone who would like to join. Please comment on today's assignment, email, call, or text me if you have been really struggling and think that you need to be a part of some of my small group Zooms that I'm going to be starting tomorrow. And lastly, look out for the vocab jam that we're going to have on Friday, hopefully at noon. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe you can get outside for a little bit of sunshine if it's warm out, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.